soon, mama, time to get up. No matter with the down, full style, strictly up, full vibes. I pick it up when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due. When me chalice, when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Like up a split, turn up the music.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Nika Lewis and you're joining us for Lead Story on CVM TV. We have a very intriguing topic to discuss because it's of international importance, but it also has implications for Jamaica and Jamaicans. My guests this evening, Maren Mantovani, International Secretariat for the Palestinian BDS National Committee. We also will be joined by Howard Simpson. He's the spokesman for Palestine Solidarity Action Group. But ahead of that, we have a look at what's happening in Palestine and so far what's been going on with the war. So take a look.
Hundreds of its citizens have been killed and many more injured.
The violent Israeli raids have not stopped bombarding across the Gaza Strip.
There's so much going on, so we're going to answer 3 questions to help you understand what's happening. This is Gaza. It's a small strip of Palestinian land that's been under a land, sea, and air blockade by Israel since 2007. More than 2 million Palestinians live there, crammed in, and they can only leave with Israeli permission, which few people get. It's often referred to as the world's largest open-air prison. And Hamas is the political and armed group that runs Gaza. It took control there after it won an election in 2006, but there hasn't been a vote since then. Hamas is part of a regional alliance that also includes Iran and the armed group Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel, the US, EU, and others have designated Hamas a terrorist organization. Many Palestinians see Hamas as the most active group when it comes to resistance against Israeli occupation, especially since the other main Palestinian political group, Fatah, which controls parts of the West Bank, is often criticized for being ineffective. Now, Israel and Hamas have fought on and off wars. The last big one was in 2021. In the past, it's usually been an exchange of fire across the Gaza border. Hamas fires rockets into Israel. Israel drops bombs on Gaza, usually with a huge civilian death toll. But what happened this time around was very different. A lot of people are calling it unprecedented. Why? Well, really because of the scale of the attack that Hamas launched and because nobody really saw it coming. It started early on October 7th. Hamas fired thousands of rockets into Israel and then sent hundreds of fighters over the border. They overran a border crossing and broke down the security barrier that surrounds Gaza with bulldozers. Some fighters were in vehicles, some even flew over on motorized paragliders. They attacked towns and villages. At least 900 Israelis were killed, including around 260 at a music festival. Videos online showed panicked people trying to escape. Hamas also says it's captured more than 100 Israelis, including some senior military officers. Israel says children and elderly women were also taken. Nothing like that has happened since Hamas captured one Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, in 2006 and held him in Gaza for 5 years. 3 days after Hamas launched its attack, there were still gun battles going on between Hamas fighters and Israeli forces in 3 main areas in southern Israel. Which brings us to another reason why this is also unprecedented, and that's Israel's failure to stop it. Remember, the Israeli army is one of the world's most sophisticated military and intelligence organizations, and the border with Gaza is heavily monitored. So this attack came as a huge shock.
Unfortunately, we were taken by surprise. Absolute surprise.
Any kind of communication going in and out of Gaza, at least in theory, would be listened to by Israel's intelligence units. And of course, the border, so-called, around Gaza, a wall and fence, is also highly militarized, but clearly that collapsed.
I think it raises questions as to Israel's military capability, which isn't a good look for Israel, since it likes to be seen as the strong man and incredibly capable in that region.
Israel has also vowed an unprecedented response and says it plans to wipe out Hamas's military capability.
And there you have it. International reporters have been capturing the effects of the conflict between Palestine and Israel and why it's important for us here in Jamaica. But you'd have to stay with us for more after the break. It's Lead Story.
Today has competed in 5 Olympic Games. I'm talking about Jamaica's most decorated swimmer. It's none other than Aaliyah Atkinson. Do you know that Jamaica is very proud?
But I never got that while I was swimming. In 2014, I was the first person of color, male or female, to ever get a world record in swimming.
Wow.
And I was like, seriously? And you take the little girl from Jamaica to do it?
We're really looking at something and saying in 2020 something, there's a first black person to do something. You are that person.
Swimming is another obstacle that we need to overcome. I think as a nation, living on an island and having so many gullies and rivers and lakes.
Hey, you're to the gullies, you know?
Millions of people are attacked by harmful mouth bacteria. The root cause of bad breath, gum problems, cavities, plaque, and tartar. That's why Colgate combined the best science and technology in Colgate Total. Unlike others, its superior formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back. Take control of your oral health with Colgate Total.
Welcome back to Lead Story. My name is Nika Lewis. I am here with Maren Mantovani, International Secretariat for the Palestinian BDS National Committee. She's going to explain a lot more about what that is. Howard Simpson is also here. He's the spokesman for the Palestine Solidarity Action Group. We told you about them earlier when we showed you that clip, but now they're here in person and have a chance to say how they felt after watching that clip from the international reporters. What did you make of it? First, Ms. Mantovani.
First of all, thanks for having me and giving Palestine the time on TV. Well, seeing that, I guess there are a few key points that have completely been missing because what is happening on the ground in Palestine, in a specific in Gaza, with the complete destruction of all living possibilities, the complete destruction of 90% of all houses and infrastructure, the killing of tens of thousands, 60, 70,000 people already, the starving of people deliberately, a policy of, by now we are having a system where people are being starved and then sent to so-called food distribution centers that are death traps, according to the UN, death traps, because they come there just to be shot again by the Israeli soldiers. This is not something that has to do with Israel against Hamas. This has something to do with Israel against the Palestinian people. And the point here is that since the establishment of the State of Israel 77 years ago, Israel systematically has expelled already over half of the Palestinian people from their lands and has continued to steal their lands, destroy their homes, destroy their food and their agriculture. And that continuous ethnic cleansing, that continuous racist repression, apartheid system that Israel has created over the years has escalated in the genocide that we are seeing. So that is really Israel's genocide supported by the US and Europe, a colonial project that wants to erase the Palestinian people and has now come to a genocide. So my first reaction is that is unfortunately not a conflict between Israel and an armed group. That is a destruction, a systematic destruction, a genocide in the 21st century against the Palestinian people.
Those are some powerful descriptors. What say you, Mr. Simpson, and why should this be in any way a concern for the people of Jamaica?
You know, as Ms. Morgan has said as well, is that I agree with all she has said. You know, and this, when people can see over the media, the destruction, the massacre of innocent people, especially children, when you look at over 20,000 children have lost their lives, and we're not even accounting for those who are under the rubble, that is unaccounted for. You understand? It is something that the world shouldn't put a silence to, our blind eye. We need, and we're calling on our leaders, especially the Caribbean, especially Jamaica, to see the historical impact that we had played in the ending of apartheid in South Africa. We have to call on our leaders to take a stand, to cut economic ties, political ties with Israel, and to put a harder and more difficult stance on this position, because we cannot remain silent anymore. We have to stand for justice. We have to be on the right side of history.
Are we too close to an election for our leaders to make any major moves, you would believe, right now, based on the call you've just issued for us to do more?
Well, you know, let's just put this election aspect aside. Yes. We have to look at humanity on a large. Whether you might be Muslim, Christian, a person of no religion, we have to take a stand. What is happening in Palestine is bigger than any election that can take place over the world. This is genocide. This is ethnic cleansing. This is a war crime. You know, so we should take these small issues of election and put them one side. You understand? And think about the suffering that people are going through. Israel is using even food, starvation as a means to control the people of Palestine. And we have to take a stand. This is a moral issue that we're looking at here. And it's bigger than any election that we can think of.
It extends boundaries based on
boundaries.
The crisis that we're seeing.
Yes.
We understand. And so I want to bring Ms. Mantovani back to the concern and the discussion, because one of the things we've seen is, for example, our diplomatic relationship between the two countries, Israel and Palestine. And so how does Jamaica's diplomatic relationships with these two countries affect its foreign policy, you being of the international community?
The first thing is, and I think that was a positive step forward, that Jamaica has recognized the state of Palestine. But I guess beyond that, the question is whether Jamaica recognizes as well the human rights and the humanity of the Palestinian people. Because according to international law and to the UN resolutions that Jamaica has supported, that means not only the obligation for Israel to end its genocide against the Palestinian people, but as well for all other countries and states around the world not to aid and assist, not to be complicit, and not to allow the impunity of Israel in committing this genocide, an illegal occupation, and an apartheid system in the 21st century. And here there's lots to be done that Jamaica has not taken on yet. And the Caribbean, as a group of states, have two fundamental issues that they can bring to the play and to the fore in ending impunity and ending complicity. The first thing is the question of the maritime transfer of military supplies to Israel. You would go, what does the Caribbean have to do with that? You're not producing the weapons. They don't pass, normally don't pass here, though a number of vessels that carry weapons have already passed through Jamaican ports as well. The key point is that many of those vessels that are carrying military supplies, dual-use supplies to Israel, are carrying a flag of a Caribbean state. That means that de facto it is the Caribbean states and under their sovereignty that Israel is getting armed. And there we have the fantastic and really groundbreaking hopefully standard-setting directive of Antigua and Bermuda that came out with a directive and said, we make it clear that under our flag there will be no transfer of military supplies to conflict zones. Whether that is the genocide of Israel, whether that's others. We really hope that that becomes a standard, not only in the Caribbean, but for all flag-giving countries.
All right, we're going to take a quick pause there because we're up on a break, but we'll be right back to continue this discussion about the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Stay with us.
Is paving the way to becoming a republic or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
Our guest today has competed in 5 Olympic Games. I'm talking about Jamaica's most decorated swimmer. It's none other than Aaliyah Atkinson. Do you know that Jamaica is very proud?
But I never got that while I was swimming. In 2014, I was the first person of color, male or female, to ever get a world record in swimming.
Wow.
And I was like, seriously? And you take the little girl from Jamaica to do it?
We're really looking at something and saying in 2020 something, there's a first black person to do something. You are that person.
Swimming is another obstacle that we need to overcome. I think as a nation, living on an island and having so many gullies and rivers and lakes.
Hey, you're up to the gullies, you know?
Welcome back to Lead Story. My name is Nika Lewis. We're joining several important individuals, but for now, just 2. Later on, we'll hear from significantly more people in the course of this week or next week, because there'll be a massive protest action I'm hearing about in the parish of St. James. But my guests for Lead Story this evening, Maren Mantovani, she's the International Secretariat for the Palestinian BDS National Committee, and Mr. Howard Simpson, spokesman for Palestine Solidarity Action Group. Before we went to the break, where we're discussing why the war in Israel and Palestine, or between Israel and Palestine, is important for Jamaicans and the CARICOM nations, we heard Ms. Mantovani explaining what the CARICOM body as a whole could do to impact and send greater signals to those 2 nations, and especially to Israel, about what's happening over in Palestine and Gaza specifically. Did I capture that correctly, Ms. Mantovani?
Absolutely, and I was talking about the question of flags and the flags that vessels are carrying that are bringing weapons to Israel and that are Caribbean flags. But there is another aspect that I wanted to raise, and that is the question of Jamaica and the Caribbean as a tourism destination. And what we are seeing after 2 years of genocide is that many of the genocidaires, the soldiers that have passed months and more than a year killing children, committing a genocide, now are going to holidays. And what has happened already around the world, that a movement is growing and saying our shores should not be the safe havens for genocidaires. It is not okay that they're just coming into our places and not being held accountable if they're war criminals, if they're involved in genocide, apartheid, other crimes of atrocity. And here the first point that should be happening and that we are asking for is an end to a visa-free travel of Israeli citizens to Jamaica and other tourist destinations, so that you have the possibility to actually screen and vet them before they even come into your country, and in case hold them accountable. Visas are always mostly being used to discriminate against black and brown people, which as a colonial tool of racism. But here, for once, visa can be used in order to ensure that those that are really the responsibles for atrocity crimes are being held accountable and are not being welcome where they shouldn't be, because Jamaica should not be a safe haven for war criminals and genocidaires. And that is another demand.
I understand that you're also going to be attending a very critical CARICOM meeting, which will be taking place next week, the 6th to the 8th of July, and that is the CARICOM Heads of States meeting. And so I anticipate, let me just preempt it, what, pray tell, are you going there to lobby the people there to do, the leaders?
I guess we're both out in the streets,
Yes.
and maybe you want to talk about that one as well.
We're hoping, you know, that because you have the CARICOM conference that will be in the convention center in Montego Bay starting Sunday. This Sunday. Yes, so we are hoping and making appeal to the leaders of CARICOM to have a stronger voice, to take a stronger stance against this colonial project of Israel. Because we, as I mentioned earlier, have seen what this region have played a very important role in ending apartheid in South Africa. And we're hoping that we can use the same approach, you know, to end apartheid in Palestine as well. Because there were some statements that were made by the Bajan Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, and the President of Guyana, President Ali, and also the Foreign Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, right? Okay. So we have seen some leaders have taken an approach, but we need more, especially from Jamaica, because Jamaica have always played a more leading role in this sort of things. So we're asking Jamaica to take a lead role in this genocide that is taking place in Palestine. So we're hoping and we're appealing to Jamaicans who might see this as a concern, as a humanitarian act, to be at Montego Bay this Sunday at 3 o'clock.
And further, beyond that CARICOM summit on the 14th and 15th of July, world leaders and states, representatives of states from across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and now just recently as well some confirmations from Europe, will be coming together in Bogota for an emergency meeting to discuss how to uphold human rights and international law and how to be able to defend the lives and the survival of the Palestinian people. And so far, there is not a single confirmation from the Caribbean.
Wow.
The CARICOM states seem to be absent when the world comes together to try to find ways how to end a genocide and how to end apartheid. And as you said, when apartheid was there in South Africa, you were leading and at the forefront. And we hope that you're joining in again in that other meeting, because as the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, said, Gaza is only an experiment for a world where each and every one will be dispensable. If we don't stop the killing of children, of an entire population in Gaza, then that we normalize it. Then that can happen tomorrow anywhere else. Haiti is the next place to talk about. And for a people that itself comes out of an experience of genocide, because what was slavery if not genocide? We just, and the Palestinian people, hope that you understand that genocide should never happen again, and we all need to stand together and stop it, no matter whether elections are coming up or not.
Let's talk a little. I know you want to say something, but I really want to ask, because I've heard some people, especially in the Caribbean, mentioning that perhaps if this war continues, their concern is that gas prices could be impacted, food prices, those sorts of things. Should that even be on the priority list of why we're concerned? And
yes, definitely. That should be on the list of priorities, because if you realize this is, and this was shown on public media, so it's no secret, because the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, had brought him up at the UN Council, showing that there's a greater Israel project. This will encompass Palestine, Lebanon, parts of Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and a part of Turkey. So you realize that this conflict is expanding all over the Middle East. And you realize now the Yemeni government, which is the Houthis, Ansar Allah, had blocked the Red Sea for a number of months,
yes,
preventing ships from traveling through the Red Sea. And if it even gets worse, with Iran getting involved and blocks the Strait of Hormuz, then you realize this affects Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, all these countries that are major oil producing nations in the world, including Iran, and gas producing nations. So definitely we will see devastated impact on the prices of oil and gas, and even as far as food as well.
All right, as we wrap, because we're getting the wrap-up signal, your final thoughts, Ms. Mantovani and Mr. Simpson. Ms. Mantovani first.
Thank you. And I guess the question of the food prices is important, but as we have seen, the ongoing aggression of Israel has only recently led us almost to on the brink of a nuclear disaster. What we are seeing here really is a litmus test for humanity. Are we able to stand together to keep up a minimum decency of human rights, not only for Palestinians, but for everybody? Or are we accepting a world where might makes right and let go of any safeguard that has been constructed over the decades of struggles, especially from the global south, through the United Nations systems, through international law? So that is really not only anymore a question of Palestinian